I don't want to make this video. I don't want to make this video. It's so unnecessary. It should be so unnecessary. The freaking conservatives are acting like a bunch of liberals. Like, this is completely unnecessary. I'm half surprised I didn't see conservatives breaking out pussy hats or something. What is wrong with them? I should not have to make this video. After this last election, we still have to have this conversation. You've got to be kidding me. You've got to be kidding me. Well, we're off the clock, which means you are not my employees and I am not your boss. When I originally made this channel, I wanted it to be a place for me to come and share my experiences from the business world. I feel to this day that there is a lot of misconception and misinformation out there, and I hoped that I could clear some of it up for everyday people. After the contentious 2016 presidential election, I also wanted to share my political views. And I felt that this channel could also be a healthy platform for that, since business and politics often collide in the news. For example, take what happened this week with Tomi Lahren and The Blaze. Tomi Lahren, as I'm sure you know, shot to internet fame in this age of alternative media, and her work with The Blaze has made her a fierce competitor against mainstream network counterparts. Previously, Tomi was in the news after holding her ground in a heated discussion with Trevor Noah on the Comedy Central's The Daily Show. I say discussion instead of debate because Trevor Noah doesn't know how to debate properly. And considering he had home turf advantage, he came away from that interview as the definite debate loser. Debate loser. So, recently Tomi appeared on The View, and she was asked the following question.
Doesn't bother you, but let me ask you this. You call yourself a conservative Republican and a constitutional conservative, but you also consider yourself pro-choice, which is interesting to me because 68% of conservative Republicans think that abortion should be illegal across the board.
And this was her response.
No, I'm pro-choice, and here's why. I am a constitutional, someone that loves the Constitution. I am someone that's for limited government, and so I can't sit here and be a hypocrite and say I'm for limited government, but I think that the government should decide what women do with their bodies. I can sit here and say that as a Republican, and I can say, you know what, I'm for limited government, so stay out of my guns, and you can stay out of my body as well.
Well, immediately after this aired, Tomi's show was suspended. Now, to be honest with you, I wouldn't feel the need to make this video if this had been the end of it. First off, I'm not a big follower of The Blaze, nor Tomi herself. I mean, I see the highlights that get posted here on YouTube and the articles that get shared on Facebook, but when it comes to attractive women commenting on the news, I prefer the styles of Lauren Southern and Steven Crowder. And yet, here I am making this video about Tomi. Why? The public's response. And also Glenn Beck himself, his commentary. See, as news came out about Tomi's show being suspended, people came out of the conservative woodwork calling for her immediate termination from The Blaze. They consider Tomi a hypocrite, citing a video she made 3 months ago in which she says the line, and I quote, "The pro-choicers are supposed to be about rare and safe abortions. That's how they avoid sounding like straight-up baby killers." Then we have Lena freaking Dunham out there wishing she could have murdered a fetus. Now, Glenn Beck, to his credit, used his radio show to tell his listeners calling for Tomi's head that that wasn't their call, and it would be handled privately by The Blaze. Perfect. Good job, Glenn. However, of course there's a however, Beck also used the rest of his radio show to rail against Tomi's hypocrisy, sometimes veiled, not directly, and not by name, but overall echoing those people calling for her termination. So you're calming people down, so you say, and then echoing what they're saying so that they get ramped back up. Come on, Glenn. So, fame and business are complicated enough. But then you add emotionally charged politics, and you've got a disaster on your hands. And I think The Blaze has, so far, really mishandled this situation. I think Tomi's comments have been blown way out of proportion, and I am reminded by the reaction of most conservatives that even though I'm a Trump supporter, and maybe you are too, we are very much on the middle fringe of this group. And frankly, that's going to be a real problem for conservatives, because I think they drastically underestimate the number of people like you and me, and from the sound of it, Tomi. Tomi's one of us, folks. And Glenn Beck is looking like a fool to me. What do you think? I mean, listen, I don't think that Tomi's a hypocrite. Not from the information that I've heard and seen so far. Glenn, you've pulled a Trevor Noah. You're a bully. Tomi Lahren is a hypocrite. No, bro, she's 24. She's 24. Look, I'm not trying to be all Tomi fanboy here, but young people are notorious for staying away from politics for this exact reason. Why? Because they aren't taken seriously by the old guard. Bunch of kids. However, time marches on, and eventually these young people will become more involved in politics. Do you want her on your side or not? She's effective at rallying the troops. You want her playing for the enemy? Just saying. And again, this isn't a left or right thing. I'm just saying. Right now I'm talking to Glenn Beck. He's on the right. Do you want her with the enemy? The left. Hey, now's your chance to grab Tomi. Do you want her against the enemy? I'm in the middle here, folks. I'm in the middle here. So, do you want to shut them up by calling them names? Or, Glenn, are you willing to teach? I have two major defenses for Tomi on this one. First off, as I said, she's 24. I was still in college when I was 24. Just like, I was. You think my opinions were solidified on anything? I've grown so much since then. I digress. But it's not really hypocrisy at 24. Hillary Clinton, who has been in politics for 30 years already, her being staunchly against gay marriage until it becomes politically convenient is hypocrisy. Glenn, at 24, comments like what Tomi has said so far, at least, that's more like changing your mind as you personally discover new information. It's called growing up. Have you forgotten? For example, I consider myself a pro-choice person, but when a woman treats it like regular birth control, that's getting a little out there. I mean, once you get your third abortion, maybe it's time to invest in some damn condoms. Okay? However, I didn't really think of the abortion issue in that way until recently when Steven Crowder discussed it when Planned Parenthood was the major topic of the news day. Liberals trot out these excuses like a woman being raped to drum up support. But when you look at the numbers, it's a tiny fraction of the abortions performed. Most people are not in need medically of an abortion, nor have they been raped. So I still consider myself pro-choice. What's changed is where I define choice, where I place the choice. For example, now I think that a woman makes that choice when she decides to have sex. You want to roll the dice, it might not go your way. Are you a gambling person or not? Then accept the consequences. You don't get to do-over. You don't get a reset button. And if that's how you're treating an abortion, then no, I don't support that. Abortion shouldn't be your easy out birth control. There are other measures in place that can be that. Oh, no, but I want to have sex. Fine. That's your choice. So, thanks to Crowder, I recently changed my mind on this. And I'm in my 30s. So does that make me a hypocrite? I'm much older than 24, and I've been on the left before. I've been on the left since till this last election, really. Independent, but left-leaning. So am I a hypocrite? Or did I just change my mind when presented with a different argument? I could say the same thing about climate change, frankly. My eyes have been opened. Why don't you allow for that? No, she's a hypocrite. Am I a hypocrite? No. Why not? Because I'm not famous? Because I don't have a show? Because I'm not a public figure? She's 24. And that's the part of the story that's not being reported. I mean, I'm not trying to give the girl a free pass. And I don't mean girl like derogatorily. I'm just saying I'm not trying to give her a free pass here. But she's 24. Do you remember the things that you thought when you were 24? Oh yeah, they're exactly the same as they are today. Well, good for you. You are the exception, not the rule. Okay? So, back to Tomi. Here's my second defense. Remember that quote I mentioned that's being used to attack her and label her with the hypocrite? I don't think it means what everybody wants it to mean, Glenn Beck included. Again, the quote was, and I quote, "The pro-choicers are supposed to be about rare and safe abortions. That's how they avoid sounding like straight-up baby killers. Then we have Lena freaking Dunham out there wishing she could have murdered a fetus." All right, okay, all right. I'll give some ground. So Tomi uses the word they. And it does sound a lot like she's not counting herself as a member of the pro-choice group. But in that comment, in that quote, I still don't hear a hypocrite. What I hear is Tomi attacking the information that most pro-choicers push, that abortions are rare and safe. And I see her attacking Lena Dunham for, quote unquote, wishing she could have an abortion. Lena Dunham, that is. Tomi's point is that Lena Dunham is wishing she could voluntarily have a procedure that the left often says is necessary to help a poor, helpless victim of rape. So, is Lena Dunham wishing to get raped? I see Tomi's point. I think Tomi's point is more that if you are voluntarily wishing to have an abortion, then you're closer to murdering a fetus than if you were one of these unicorn women liberals are always talking about who medically need to have the abortion. That's Lena Dunham being a hypocrite, not Tomi. As I just explained, I still call myself pro-choice, but I no longer support abortion 100%. A woman's right to choose 100%. I don't support abortion as a means of pure birth control. If a woman medically needs an abortion, then yeah, she should have that option. I'm there. But if you ask me, are you pro-choice or pro-life, I'm going to say pro-choice. Even though the left doesn't consider me pro-choice, and the right wouldn't consider me pro-life. I'm in no man's land again. Why won't anybody play with me? So now let's turn to Glenn Beck. Glenn! You really shouldn't throw around the word hypocrite. You proceed to ramble on and on and on and on about Tomi's hypocrisy. Then you tell your listeners that this is a private matter and will be handled as such. And that's the reason for this video. Conservatives, you reacted to Tomi on The View the way liberals reacted to Joy Villa's pro-Trump Grammy dress. So quick to turn on one of your own is something I've gotten used to saying about the left, and now here's the right. Thanks for reminding me how on the outside of your group I really am. So next election, if the Democrats can rustle someone together that I can remotely relate to, and now after your reaction to Tomi on The View, that's all I need to seriously consider the Democrat. I mean, I'm not going to turn a blind eye. Before this, it was like, hey, you know what? I voted for Trump, and I still haven't seen anything that Trump is doing that I don't like. I mean, I'm not 100% behind Trump. There are things I would do differently, but he hasn't offended me so much that I'd say, man, I regret my vote. Conservatives, you did not win this election. So you need to remember, or it's going to be a long 4 years. I mean, hear me out. I have to give Tomi credit where credit's due. Usually when I hear a person announce that they are pro-choice, even me being pro-choice myself, I'm used to hearing their argument that is purely, it's my body, so it's my choice. I mean, no, not necessarily. There's arguments. What about when you're when you want to get a tattoo, but you're a minor? It's still your body, but your parents make the choice. So, I mean, that's not the strongest argument, is all I'm saying. I'm a practical person, and that's not the most robust argument you could throw out there. And it's weaker than it should be, and it's tired. It is tired. I am tired of hearing it. Come up with something better. But that's not what Tomi said. Did you listen to her quote on The View? Did you hear her? Tomi said that she views abortion in the same light as she sees the Second Amendment. She is for a smaller, limited government where the power is invested in the people. Which is a very educated way of saying, my body, my choice. So credit where credit's due. It's not the uneducated drivel that we're usually subjected to. It's a constitutional conversation, if, Glenn Beck, you're willing to have it. She's for a smaller, limited government where the power is vested in the people. What is more Republican than that? So what? You're pissed that Tomi didn't throw holy water on the ladies at The View? Because I see you dragging this down a religious rabbit hole, and I'm telling you, that's not going to work with the people on the fringe. Sure, I see Tomi's comments as a little misguided. I don't agree with her. The Second Amendment is written in the Constitution. Abortion had to be interpreted by the Supreme Court, and we always hear about fear that is going to be overturned. That's the whole circus surrounding Gorsuch right now. Because we can't let the conservatives get another vote on the court. They're going to overturn Roe v. Wade. See what I'm saying? So there's room. All I'm saying, I'm not saying that Tomi's wrong. I don't agree with her. I think that she's a little misguided. But she's 24! Misguided is to be expected. So talk to her. Don't talk at her. Talk with her. Don't shut her down and don't call her names. Let me put it like this, okay? Glenn, conservatives, while I was doing research for this video, I came across an article about how The View is defending Tomi for expressing her opinion. In other words, her employer, conservative The Blaze, suspended her for voicing her opinion. The View is defending her. Where would you expect Tomi's loyalty to be after the dust settles, Glenn? Where you think it's going to be? Now, as an employer, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes at the Blaze. And I'm sure this is not the first time Tommy's been in hot water, though we may not have heard it all. The dirty laundry doesn't get aired in front of us. As a manager, one of the most frustrating things I find myself constantly having to remind my employees, I am their boss, is that I don't discipline others in front of them. You won't see all the closed door meetings, that's why they're called closed door meetings, that went on leading up to this action. But I need you, not you because you're not my employees, but I need them, my employees, to trust that the meetings happened. When I have to fire an employee, it may be a surprise to the others, but it came as no surprise to that employee. We'd been talking about it for a while. Warnings, write-ups, etc. However, Glenn, not your boss to boss, this is a golden opportunity to mentor your person. From where Tommy's coming from, I could have a constitutional discussion with her. And let's not forget the all-important fact that it's okay to disagree with one another on these things. It doesn't make you less of a conservative, necessarily. You're not a traditional conservative, but your numbers are dwindling, man. You've got to win over the middle. What is wrong with you? Publicly, you have said that Tomi has a lot to learn about being a true conservative. Well, Glenn, she's still a hell of a long way from being a liberal, though, huh? So that's worth something, isn't it? Isn't it? But I bet if you keep railing on her and calling her names publicly, I'll bet you can push her closer to the left. Keep pushing, Glenn. Run off people who think differently than you. Create an echo chamber. Make a safe space for yourself. If you valued your employee, the time, the energy, and the effort you've invested in her, then your sentence, Glenn, would have ended after you said the matter would be handled privately, as it should have been. Let this be a reminder to all the thinking people out there. Both the true liberals and the true conservatives have a lot more in common with each other than they want you and I to realize. The leadership of both parties want to be our shepherd. But that doesn't work on thinking people like you and me. We can see the world from both sides, and frankly, we are sick and tired of these people treating us like sheep. So remember, as always, this is all just my opinion. You don't have to listen to a word I say, because you are not my employees and I am not your boss. Break time's over. Let's get back to work.